So I'm here with Aisha Hunt, who's a principal at Kelley Hunt and Charles. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And I'd love to start with, first of all, asking you about the Vanguard patent expiring. What are some of the lessons for the industry from what are kind of the next steps, or what are you looking forward next to?
I think the next steps are really figuring out an innovative way to benefit from the tax efficiencies of an ETF, combined with the mutual fund assets, the scale, the track record, and the performance of existing mutual funds. And the ETF share class patent expiring really has opened an avenue for various issuers. To like Perpetual to file an exemptive application to potentially get the SEC comfortable with mutual fund issuers being able to add an ETF share class.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned also, what are some of the other options for other, for issuers to pursue in case this is not the route that's going to be viable for them?
That's a great question. I mean, given the uncertainty around the viability and getting the SEC comfortable, I think it's really important for mutual fund issuers to consider potentially converting a mutual fund to an ETF, or to launch a clone, a mimic of a mutual fund strategy within an ETF wrapper. And while it's quite a lift to convert a mutual fund to an ETF, it does bring the benefit of bringing scale and being able to port that track record over.
That makes sense. There's been a lot of buzz around AI at the conference. A lot of panelists are getting really excited about ramifications and what it means for financial advisors, for issuers all over. What are some of the issues that you're hearing about, or potential obstacles that new issuers should be aware of looking at to launch AI ETFs, for example?
Yeah, I mean, what's great is that there's really an opportunity to get industry exposure through the ETF wrapper to AI companies that are publicly traded on an exchange. And I think it's also important to think about some of the compliance issues. I think those are the bigger hurdles. I think the product initiatives, it's really wide open in terms of what issuers can do to get exposure to AI through a strategy. I think the concern is, how do you manage your personnel and set expectations and have the requisite training to make sure your personnel is not providing confidential information to third parties that shouldn't be shared outside of the company.
For sure. And in terms of Grayscale and Bitwise, their recent filing for Ethereum futures ETF, and then very quickly we're withdrawing that. What do you make of it? It just seems, I don't know if there's a lot of precedent for it.
Yeah, I mean, there is precedent for the SEC asking issuers to withdraw, applications and filings, and it appears that the SEC didn't have a comfort level with respect to Ethereum futures ETFs. We saw with the Bitcoin futures ETFs that the SEC was concerned about making sure that there was a broad enough market with respect to Bitcoin futures, and so I think maybe to the extent that the Ethereum futures market has greater breadth and depth, we might see more progress being made. But as of now, obviously, there's not a comfort level at the SEC staff.
Clearly not. And broader crypto market, we work with a lot of ETF issuers, a lot of clients who are in the digital crypto space. What is your outlook or kind of assessment of the environment right now?
I mean, I think digital assets are always an interesting area, and I think we're going to see continued innovation. And I think, we're all looking at what's next. I think right now there's a particularly conservative mindset at the SEC and amongst the staff. And so I don't think we're going to see the type of progress that people are hoping for in the digital asset space, but more to come. And I think, we're all going to continue to keep our ear to the ground and see when there's greater comfort level at the SEC in terms of digital assets.
For sure, we'll continue to keep an eye on. And just one last question in terms of your takeaways or anything that surprised you at the conference today.
Yeah, no, I've been very, very, very pleasantly surprised at the level of innovation and thought leadership that really has been shared at the various sessions. I think the conference producers have really emphasized the themes of innovation and next generation, and everyone's been very I think bringing thought leadership to what's at the forefront of investors' minds. Right, we're talking about fixed income differently now. Right, we're not just talking about 60-40 allocation. We're talking about single issuer ETFs like the US benchmark series and other very exciting product innovations. And so I think it's an exciting time to be in the industry and to continue to help support innovation.
For sure. Thank you so much, Aisha.
Thank
Great chatting with you.